Well, yes, they are debasing the currency in Washington. The head of the central bank said once in an official speech that if he had to get in a helicopter and fly around the world and drop out dollar bills to debase the currency, he would do so. He said, you must, in another official speech, you must understand that we control the printing presses now, and we'll run these printing presses as fast as we have to. Well, he's running them now, but just wait till things get really, really bad. Right now they're bad, but wait till they're really, really bad. Well, he's going to be printing them like there's no tomorrow. He's going to print money till we run out of trees, because that's all he knows, and it's just going to continue to debase the currency and debase the dollar. None of this is good news. I don't like saying any of this, but one has to face facts and face reality, or one will sink with them.
Here's an email from Nancy in Austin, Texas, for Mr. Jim Rogers. She asked, does Jim Rogers feel the Federal Reserve should be abolished, nationalized? Nationalized?
I think it should be abolished. Nancy, we've had 3 central banks in American history. The first 2 failed, and this one's going to fail too, because they've added huge amounts of debt down there. They're printing a lot of money. They're making terrible mistakes. So it's going to fail one way or the other. I guess nationalization would be the second best, but I'd rather just see it abolished, because they're making things worse, not better. And the world has gotten through many periods in history without central banks. Central banks, are just bureaucrats, and they're no smarter than any of the. In fact, most bureaucrats are less smart than most of us. So no, it should be abolished. We'd all be better off.
We need an Andrew Jackson. I'm reading a great book called The Coming Battle, and they talk about what went on with Andrew Jackson's time, and he ran on a platform to get rid of the central bank, and he did it.
No, he did it. He was smart enough and courageous enough to do it. The people in Washington we have now are neither smart enough nor courageous enough. Even if somebody sat down and demonstrated to them the flaws of our current central bank system, they wouldn't do anything about it, because they just don't have the vision, I'm afraid. Do
you think the boys, as we call them, the boys here on One Radio Network, the J.P. Morgans, the Goldman Sachs, and the Cities, and all these people, do you think they're so powerful that there's never could be someone who could get into a position as president to do anything meaningful?
Well, you'd be very hard-pressed. Some politicians in the U.S. do know that the Federal Reserve is not good, and they're vocal about it. There's Senator Bunning from Kentucky, or Congressman Paul from Texas. There are a few who understand the system, but to really go too far, it's very difficult right now, because it's so ingrained in people. The conventional wisdom is so powerful that this is the way it is, and people think it's always been this way. And so it's very difficult to buck that. Now, throughout history, you've had situations like that, and then as things get worse and worse and worse, people start listening to the outliers, the people who are saying this is wrong. The boy who said the emperor has no clothes. Well, more and more people will start to realize as the crisis gets worse and worse.
Here's a second part of the question from Nancy. Do you believe that the Fed will allow the dollar to remain the world reserve currency?
Well, I don't think it's up to the Fed much longer, because many people are starting to worry about the dollar. We've been talking about how they're debasing the dollar. America is the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. And I'm not the only person who knows that, and many people are starting to worry about it and starting to move away from the U.S. dollar. Some of our enemies are already starting to use other currencies, but even some of our friends, Patrick, are starting to say, wait a minute, maybe America's out of control. Maybe we should consider using something else. So the dollar's going to lose its status, whether we like it or not, and whether the Fed likes it or not, just because we've mismanaged things so badly. The same thing happened to the pound sterling. It was the world's reserve currency once upon a time. Well, as they bungled things over the decades and over the years, people moved away from the sterling to the U.S. dollar, and the dollar replaced it. So I'm afraid that's going to happen again.
888-663-6386, Patrick at OneRadioNetwork.com. What are we going to do in this country to get out of this? I mean, the only game right now seems to be printing more dollars, borrowing these dollars, and throwing money at the problem. Do we not, Jim Rogers, have to figure out a way how to create services and products that people want, sell them at, capitalism, sell them at a profit, and and build from there? How are we going to get out of this, or are we?
Well, Patrick, it's a good question. I've got these two little children. I've just written a book just published this week, in fact, called A Gift to My Children.
Yes.
And one of the reasons I did it was because I am concerned about what's happening, and I want to give them guidelines on how to live their lives and how to be successful when things like that, when anything comes along. You know, I've been in the investment business a long time, as you pointed out, and been traveling around the world a long time. So I've learned a lot over the past decades, and I figured I try to teach it to them, but I also want it written down so that they can have it forever, and even when situations arise, they can go back and look at it if they want to.
Uh-huh.
What we're going to have to do is what every other country has done that's gotten in this situation is have to bite the bullet, take some pain. Now, nobody wants to take pain, but when you're in a situation like that, when you've made mistakes like we have for a long time, you have to admit reality and take your pain and clean out the system and start over. Nobody wants to do that at the moment, and nobody will vote for a politician to do that at the moment. But unfortunately, what has always happened in history is then the market in the world sort of forces you to take the pain. The market won't take your money anymore. The market won't lend you money anymore. So I'm afraid we're going to have to be forced to become more productive. We're going to have to be forced to do something about the outrageous tax system. We're going to have to do something about the crazy borrowings. I wish that you and I and your listeners could sit down and solve the problem tomorrow afternoon. Unfortunately, it won't work that way, and most Americans will not want to take pain until the pain gets worse and worse, and then they have to take pain.
Do you think it's possible that we would see the system as we know it, government and money, implode on us in this country?
Of course it's possible. Anything is like that is possible, and then it's happened forever. Look at what happened to the pound sterling. The pound sterling went down over 80% from top to bottom as it lost its status. Many other currencies. The Spanish currency once was a worldwide currency. The Roman currency, the Greek currency, the Venetian currency. The world has used many things throughout history. America's only been around a couple of 100 years. Believe it or not, before America was here, they used other things, other currencies, and every one of them imploded, exploded, disappeared, or stopped having its status as the world's reserve currency. Most of them just went and became almost worthless.
So you have used commodities, goods that have a limited supply that people need to hedge the inflation of the currency that you own. Is that one of the things you've done over the years?
Yes, I'm doing it now. As I said, I do own gold, I do own silver, but I think I'm going to make more money in other real goods, agriculture, which I mentioned before. I think the shortages are greater there. Throughout history, one way to protect yourself or even to make money in times like this has been to own real goods. But, it doesn't take much, Patrick. Think about it. If the money is becoming less and less valuable, the things that are in short supply become more and more valuable. It's pretty simple. What happens is going to happen again.
Yes, well, you've done very well as keeping this whole idea of investing in what real money is and what has a limited and an unlimited supply, haven't you? The real basics. That's what you've done.
Well, I try to explain this in my book to my little girls too. That
right.
The way you succeed, if you're an investor or if you want to protect yourself, is first you save and invest. But when you invest in things where you see positive change taking place, shortages developing, and that's where you're going to make money. Again, it's happened for a long time. Unfortunately, most people don't seem to grasp it. And I'm trying to teach my kids this at an early age. And not just my kids. This book is really written for grown-ups. My 5-year-old is not going to read it, or even if she did, she wouldn't understand it.
Uh-huh.
But it's written to try to explain that this is how things work.